All right, y'all. What's going on? It's this is definitely where we at. But welcome to books that built me. Author edition. I'm Antasia Shabrilla Moore, and in this series, I'm diving into the pages I've written, the ones that shape my healing, hustle, and higher calling. These aren't just books; they're pieces of my journey, my truth, and now yours. And we're getting into episode 4. So, beauty and the breakdown. Okay, what does that mean? And the book that it comes from is The Route 60 Memoir Written with Love Sapphire. And what we're going to get into for this particular episode, and I'm going to do a few small little pieces right quick just so we can make sure that we're going to remain as organized as possible. We're going to discuss addiction, courtrooms, and broken systems. So, where I want to kind of sort of dive into first will be that one, and then we'll go into what the coaching focus is as we speak for right now. For so, when I immediately hear addiction, I go into something that's a bit much, right? Like addiction is rooted in things that we are letting conquer us. And that's why addiction is so powerful. It's something that we have to overcome. And we are overcoming limiting beliefs that we have about these particular addictions, whether they're drugs, which is kind of sort of in the same family as alcohol, whether it's meth, cocaine, heroin, sex, shopping, gossip, anything that is holding power over our lives in a negative way. And that negativity begins to draw us into a spiral of addicting behaviors that adversely affect our lives and our ability to live and function in a normal spirit. And personally speaking, I have never had to go through rehab or any detox centers. So I'm really grateful for that. Most likely, though, I'm thinking I was really just extremely traumatized through what I did witness through secondhand accounts, which is according to certain family members and their struggles with addictions. And particularly speaking, uncles of that particular drug of choice was something like cocaine or snorting or possibly even shooting things up in veins and things like that. So that type of addiction is really ramshacking the family unit, especially in African American households. Those were really broken systems of rearing a family successfully because we're such pedal pushers of these drugs and narcotics within our own communities that it's now considered a force for destruction and or a destructive force. And that's not really where it's at. I mean, you look back and realize that those addictions caused you to not only just steal from your family or your loved ones, but possibly even your communities as well. We get these uniforms and they have to come out and patrol the streets and things of that nature. And they look upon one day a person that's high out their mind or some kind of narcotics that they've been addicted to for 10, 15 years plus. Oh, Lord, right? But we don't consider the risk that's involved with apprehending these individuals. And I think that's sad. Personally speaking, I'm like, what type of people are we where we get to these points where people who serve and we're just so willing to just blindly choose to just treat it as though it's nothing. That's just something that I've always really struggled with. I've never really found anything in that was considered positive. I always looked at the judicial systems with the police and cops and everything of the nature as a way to figure out how to cope and heal when I'm speaking to these particular entities, frankly. And I've always found that it's this type of strength that deals with positivity, wanting to address whatever issues. And whenever I looked at those particular predicaments in that type of light, I always ended coming out of that particular thought successfully. And then you have other people on the other end of that spectrum who disregard dealing in truthful manners with people, no matter who they are, family or people who are considered employed because of their nature. And where we are quick to just not even just ridicule our family members, but people like that where you're really supposed to have loyalty with and share all of your resources because you care so much, and you just completely choose not to obey those type of thoughts. And then let alone having other people that are placed in certain areas to help you because of the way that they've also choose to conduct themselves, and you're also giving them some kind of irrational thought in return as you go through this addiction period, is also like having them to slap in the face. And it's really, really, really sad. Just had a thought the other day, and it was like, I wonder if they just in there going ziggity boo, like just jiggling their booties and just oh my goodness, this is like oh my goodness, jiggly boo, jiggly boo, jiggly boo. It's sad. It's just ultimately big, strong people, and they're just going ziggity boo, ziggity boo, ziggity boo, ziggity boo. Like who is in the right mind even really wants to do that and be bothered with those type of entities religiously. And so you just really want to figure out how to match energy, even though some of our backgrounds are stemmed in things that really are making us helpful to humanity. And I just read this, I guess, the other day, and you keeping people employed for reasons that are derogatory, but that's a personal decision and choice. And as soon as we understand that, you have a power to control your addiction. And that whether we choose to or not is, again, a personal decision. But we are supposed to actually make sure that we are making the right choices and decisions so we can hold our head up high, come out with confidence, walk uprightly, and really walk in that spirit of uprightness. And then you get to the courtrooms. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you'll have someone who cares. And the worst case scenario, you have someone who's overwhelmed and they're actually overworked. And therefore, you have to really kind of sort of rely on your own. And that's why it pays to make sure that it does come out successfully, just in case you do. And that's ultimately what breaks or makes us. And it's really just that crucial, pivotal moment that you have to make that choice and decision. And so, as we figure out those things and we grow older, that's really where you're going to find yourself. And a courtroom could be a metaphor for whatever your turning point may be, no matter whether you're getting ready to land this really big new deal that's going to really put you on and take your company where you want to go, or you're so far behind that if you choose the opposite and this fails because of your attitude, you're probably going to go under. So again, it just really takes a bit of sitting down with self, getting really into where you're currently at and why you're there and where you are trying to go and why. And then once you do those things, it's easier to comprehend that type of reality and then make the best appropriate decision that helps you become the woman that you're meant to be. And then as we go into the coaching focus, I want us to focus on using style to heal and reintegrate. Actually, I want us to focus on self worth when your world feels out of control. And how do you do those things? That's a really great question. First off, take the focus off everybody else around you and turn inwardly. And I had to do this before. We had another little type of, I like to call it a launch. And we had major entities who are over and around, want to see what's going on. It's uploaded everywhere. People are talking. And when they're in this process, you realize now that you have to keep your energy protected and inward, because that's where your bread and butter lies. And as soon as you choose to just constantly entertain the masses, even though you know you're running on the plate, you know you're running on no energy and that they are not giving you anything, you know that the answer cannot be to turn to them, because of the simple fact remains the same, that you have to turn inward because it's your life. And so that's really, you know what, I'm going to take a second. I'm going to pause here. So if anybody wants to run to the restroom or something like that, try to do so now if you want. But I'm going to make this really quick. And because yeah, all right, so that's number uno. Taking that time out to step away from what everybody else is up to and doing is really where you want to start, because you have to focus on yourself. In order to master addictions, you have to realize that every time you go outward to the drug instead of inward to the healing, you allow the addiction to rule. But every time you go inward and not outward, you allow yourself to rule your own destiny. And that's really where we seem to struggle. I mean, and I don't even, I'm like, and I'm not even interested in saying that's where we struggle, because it's so simple that that's just where it's a seemingly type of thought and idea that people do this so often, though. Like, it gets so frustrating. I'm gonna tell you, like, we fall in love with the idea of love. Okay. And so again, I mean, really. And what's weird, I find that people who are in the midst of addictions, they're not really styled well. They're either really cruddy, extremely skinny, um, abnormally skinny, uh, just constantly searching, scratching, like in those crevices that are caked from lack of showering. Only thing that matters is the next hit a crack, and that's why nothing else matters. Um, so yeah, their style is totally off, and that's a reflection of their self worth. Because self worth, when your world feels out of control, is really a crucial turning point. It's inward though. Because as soon as you realize that I have to control myself, I have to control my impulses, I have to control my urges for what this euphoria feels like when I turn outside. But doesn't it just make much sense that if it's outside, that you can equally find it inside as well? I mean, why not? If you have to continuously go without and it starts within, then you know for a fact that it's not without. It seems without. What you're looking for is that next dopamine hit is continuously found within. That's why it's always about appearances. And that's why addictions are so powerful and so tricky, because people want to sell you a pipe dream. And what do we use to get our next hits? We use pipes. We get addicted. And it's always a play on words, but it's always going to cost somebody else their life as well, because we OD, we need Narcan, we had to constantly have those opioids, and we had to sniff it to bring them back to life because we keep steadily so much so ODing, and it becomes a game, as though your life no longer really matters, but your next hit does, or your next source of income is so rooted in that need to have it that you're willing to sacrifice your community. And that again is rooted outwardly. And sometimes, Napoleon Hill, he's really adamant about steering clear of certain neighborhoods and environments that really drain our spirit. I just did a hot girl walk for the second time so far the other day out in Minner, Ohio. And, I was really excited. You know what I mean? I wasn't trying to be out there just showing off or whatever. I really just took whatever was given to myself at the time, and I wanted to utilize that no matter how big or small. And I'm not saying, clearly that I wanted to destroy whatever little bit of time I had, no matter how big or small, in order to make someone else feel uh, the strength of my right. You know what I mean? No, like I wanted to utilize. Utilizing and destroying are two totally different things. They, it's like having an addiction, but you so warped in your mind that you don't even see it. You can't even understand that that's your type of behavior. You're so warped and been doing these type of ideas and practices for so long that it's so ingrained that you rather OD than actually go and figure out how to make your life more manageable so that you can have a successful outcome. That is so tragic. And anyway, that's really where I wanted to make sure that we were leaving that type of idea. So here's a style prompt: one meaningful item that symbolizes your strength. For myself as a young mom, it's probably going to be something about my skincare right now, like a nice headband. They have some really cute ones that you can put on from like Amazon, and you can kind of sort of use it to push your hair back and then utilize that area of your face so you can kind of sort of keep your hair pinned back while you take that time out to really care enough to figure out what your skincare routine symbolizes and embodies for you as a young woman. For myself, it's a time of peace, it's a time for tranquility. When I really am getting into it, I probably will put on some type of music that I am really kind of sort of using to enhance that type of feeling of steady focus and steadily focusing on the woman that I wish, or the woman that necessarily am embodying moving forward. So there's that. Figure out what yours is and make sure you leave it in the comments below. And ladies, I'm grateful that you all were here and that you had a chance to hang out. That was so cool. So thanks for spending time inside my story. If this book spoke to your spirit, leave a comment. I love to hear what line lingered. Don't forget to subscribe for more truths from the titles that built me. And remember, your voice belongs on the page too. All right.